The Arizona Territory in the late 1800s was a harsh place where men gambled not only with cards, but with survival itself. Dust and hunger clung to every corner of the frontier. Ethan Cole, a weary cowboy whose ranch had failed after drought and raids, wandered into a trading post with only $1 left in his pocket. He was a man without direction, his eyes hollow with loss. That day an auction was underway, not for cattle, but for people. Among them was a young Apache girl, bound in ropes, her fierce gaze daring anyone to claim her. The auctioneer shouted, $1! Who'll take the savage girl? She's nothing but trouble. A wild creature fit for no decent home. The crowd jeered, mocking both her heritage and her silence. Ethan's hand tightened around his last coin. He should have walked away. What use did a starving cowboy have for more responsibility? Yet something in the girl's eyes, fire and sorrow mixed, pierced through him. Against reason, he stepped forward and placed his coin on the table. "I'll take her," he said. The crowd laughed. "Cole's lost his mind," someone sneered. But Ethan ignored them. The girl's name was Naira. She stood tall even with her hands bound, refusing to look away from her captors. Ethan cut her ropes the moment they left town, handing her freedom. "You're no one's property," he muttered. Naira looked at him, suspicious yet curious. "Then why pay for me?" she asked sharply. Ethan hesitated. "Maybe I was buying myself a chance to do one thing right." She studied him in silence, then nodded once as if acknowledging an unspoken truth between them. For the first time in years, Ethan felt he wasn't entirely alone. They traveled together across the desert, sharing little more than stale bread and silence. Ethan found her strength unsettling. She walked faster, carried more, and never complained. At night by the fire, she spoke of the mountains where her people once roamed freely, now taken by soldiers and settlers. "You think you bought me," she said one evening, her voice steady. "But really, you bought a mirror. In me, you'll see your chains." Ethan stared into the flames, the weight of her words pressing harder than any debt. He knew she was right. His freedom had long been lost. Days turned into weeks. Naira showed Ethan how to find water where the land looked dry, how to track rabbits, and how to listen to the wind. Her knowledge of the desert saved them more than once. Slowly, Ethan's broken spirit began to heal. One night he admitted, "I lost everything. My ranch, my pride, even my will to fight." Naira's eyes softened. "Then you must learn again. Freedom is not land or cattle. It is walking where no man owns your steps." Ethan listened, realizing this girl, once sold for scraps, carried a wisdom greater than his own. Trouble came when they reached a small town on the edge of the frontier. Men recognized Naira as Apache and spat curses. "Savage," one shouted, blocking their path. Ethan stepped forward, his jaw set. "She's with me," the men sneered. "Then you're a fool." Fists flew, and Ethan, though weary, fought like a man with something to protect. When it ended, blood streaked his knuckles, but the men backed down. Later, as Naira cleaned his wounds, she whispered, "Why fight for me? You could have walked away." Ethan winced but answered, "Because you deserve the freedom I lost." As they pushed further west, their bond deepened. They shared laughter around the fire, traded stories beneath the stars, and carried each other through hardship. Naira, once wary, began to trust Ethan's quiet strength. Ethan, in turn, leaned on her spirit like a man starving for hope. Together they rescued a trapped Mustang, rode wild plains, and found companionship where neither expected it. He no longer saw her as the girl he bought. She was his teacher, his partner, and perhaps his salvation. The West was cruel, but in each other they discovered a reason to endure. When soldiers rode into camp one evening searching for escaped Apache, Naira's face hardened. Ethan's heart pounded. "She's mine," he lied, stepping between them. "Bought and paid for," the captain sneered. "Then keep her leashed." But Naira's hand gripped Ethan's, steady as stone. That night she said softly, "You spoke as if I was property again." Ethan swallowed hard. "I was protecting you." She shook her head. "I don't need chains to be safe. If you truly believe in freedom, you must see me as more than what men call me." His shame cut deeper than any wound. The next morning, Ethan returned to the trading post where he had first seen her. He placed a folded slip of paper on the counter, her bill of sale. "This belongs to no one," he said, tearing it in half. Naira watched silently, her eyes glistening. "Then what am I to you?" she asked. Ethan met her gaze, his voice raw. You're the one who taught me freedom isn't something bought or sold. It's something fought for side by side. Naira's lips curved in the faintest smile. For the first time, she believed this cowboy might understand. Seasons shifted as they built a life together, not on land or cattle, but on respect. They trapped game, traded pelts, and carved out survival in the wilderness. Rumors spread of a cowboy and an Apache girl living freely, defying towns and soldiers alike. Some called them outlaws, others whispered of them as legends. But to Ethan and Naira, they were simply two souls unshackled. On quiet evenings, as they watched the sun sink into crimson skies, Ethan felt the weight of his old failures lift. In her he found not what he bought, but what he had long sought, redemption. Conflict, however, was never far. One spring, bounty hunters tracked them, hoping to return Naira for coin. They ambushed the pair in a canyon, rifles gleaming in the sun. Ethan stood his ground, revolver drawn, heart pounding. But before he could fire, Naira loosed an arrow, striking true. The hunters fled, cursing. Ethan looked at her in awe. "You saved me." Naira lowered her bow. "We saved each other." In that moment, Ethan understood. She was not his to protect or control. She was his equal, his partner, and together they were stronger than either alone. The years rolled on. Their camp became a haven for others cast aside, runaways, wanderers, even orphans. Ethan and Naira welcomed them, teaching survival, offering shelter. What began as a chance encounter turned into a small community, bound not by ownership but by choice. People whispered of the free camp, a place where no man or woman was owned. Ethan often thought back to that $1, his last coin, spent on a broken world's cruel bargain. It had seemed his end, yet it became his beginning. That coin had bought not a slave, but the path to freedom. One autumn evening, as fire crackled and laughter echoed among their people, Naira turned to Ethan. "Do you regret it? Spending your last dollar on me?" Ethan smiled, lines etched deep from years in the sun. "That dollar was the cheapest thing I ever spent," he said softly. "It gave me you. It gave me freedom." She leaned against him, her eyes reflecting the flames. For a long while they said nothing more. Words weren't needed. The silence between them was no longer empty. It was full, rich with the weight of lives rebuilt on trust, respect, and love. Their story grew into legend told in saloons and campfires alike, of a cowboy who spent his last coin on an Apache girl, and how she taught him the meaning of freedom. Some called it folly, others a fable, but those who had seen them knew it was truth. In the unforgiving Wild West, where men bartered souls for survival, Ethan and Naira had carved a different trail. Not of conquest, but of equality. Not of chains, but of choice. And when their time finally came, they left behind not riches, but a legacy of freedom. Even the desert remembered them. Riders passing through swore the wind carried echoes of their laughter, that the stars shone brighter over the canyon where they once camped. Ethan's name faded and Naira's was spoken with reverence. But their bond remained a part of the land, untamed, unbroken, eternal. The dollar that once marked despair had become the seed of a legend. In the end, their tale was not of a man who bought a girl, but of two souls who found in each other the courage to be free, teaching the Wild West a lesson it would never forget.